So, welcome to what's called Lesson 1, but what are scaled copies? And I have a video that's going to help go through a portion of this, and then we will come back together. So I'm going to load that video for you now.
Scale copies. We started our second unit, which is thinking about scale drawings and scale copies. So we began with this setup. We've got something that's basically like a funhouse mirror. We have our guy and his original portrait, and then we have things that we can do to it. So his portrait can be manipulated this way. It can be manipulated this way, like this, or like this. So the question is, which of these are actually scale copies? And it comes down to what it means to be a copy. A copy needs to be exactly the same in most meaningful ways. It needs to look the same as that original picture. So A, for example, he can get super squished, which means that he doesn't look like that original person anymore. B can get super squished in the other direction. And E, as he slants and tilts, he no longer looks like he's exactly the same guy. Something's been manipulated. C and D, however, just look like you've taken that photo and you've either shrunk it down or you've blown it up. This kind of enlargement or diminishment is what we would call scaling. So it's a copy because it's exactly the same shape, but it is a scaled copy because the size has changed. So same shape, different size. Original portrait, C and D would all be scale copies. So then the question is, what can we do with that if we have some letters? And here we can get a little bit subtler, because if you're looking at this grid, if our original is here, we notice right away, drawing 4, that's slanted, just like that guy was in the portrait. That is not going to be the same. What else doesn't look like it's the same? Drawing 3 looks like it's a lot shorter and longer. And something that people noticed in particular was that this top F bar and this bottom F bar are almost the same length. Where over here, the top F bar was actually twice as long as the bottom F bar. So drawing 3 is not a scale copy. If you take that similar idea, thinking about the top and bottom of the F bars, bringing it down to drawing 6, the top and the bottom are actually the same length. Well, that's not the case in the original, so this is not a copy. So then we come to these ones that all look pretty similar to the original. Looking at the F bar ends up being a useful way to distinguish which ones are actually copies of that original. So let's pay attention to the parts. The top F bar is 2 long, and the bottom F bar is 1 long. And then we have the entire thing is 2 above the F bar and 2 below the F bar, if we're looking at the distance on the grid line. Looking at drawing 1, we have 3 for the top F bar. We have 1, and it goes a little further, 1.5. I can't do that there. Yep. 1.5. And then we have 3 above the F bar and 3 below the F bar. In drawing 2, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And the bottom F bar is 2 long. And then we have 4 above the F bar and 4 below the F bar. So if we start to notice something, looking at those F bars, in all 3 of these, the top F bar is exactly twice as long as the bottom F bar. 2 to 1, 3 to 1.5, 4 to 2. That's useful. These match in some way. Then if you look at the sides, 2, 2, and 2 on the sides, 3 on the top, 3 and 3 on the sides, 4 on the top, 4 and 4 on the sides. So the side of that F is twice as long as the top of that F. Now that means that these are just blown up versions of that original. They are exactly the same shape. They've not been distorted in any way. Let's come down and look at 5. It's 3 and the bottom F bar is 2 long. Interesting. 2 long in drawing 5, 2 long in drawing 2. Can they both have the same F bar and be the same shape? No, because if you look at the top, it's 3 long, which is not twice as long as that bottom F bar. So this one we can already count out because it's not the same shape as the original drawing 1 and drawing 2. Bringing it down to drawing 7, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We would expect this to be 3, and it is. 1, 2, 3, beautiful. And then we would want this to be 6 above the F bar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 6 below. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you look at the questions on the side, the things that are scale copies, they are exactly the same shape. The only thing that's changed is how big they are. But in all ways of relationships between the parts, they're the same. Now if we look at number 2, we notice that they compare to the original because all of them have to do with doubling the top and bottom F bar, and then all of those top F bars are related to the side length as well. So then if I wanted to make another scale copy, I know that I need to maybe start with my top. So let's see, I've done 3 and 4, but I haven't done a top of 5, so there's a top of 5. If it's 5 across, it needs to be 5 down, and then 5 down again. And then halfway down was that bottom F bar. But if it's 5 here, it would need to be 2.5. That's a bigger version. On the other hand, if I wanted a smaller one, what if it was only 1? Then I would have 1. Nope. And I would want 1 and 1. And this one's only going to be able to be a half. To make it half. That might not really show very well. It's not liking it very much. But I could only come halfway in order to be half of that top F bar. Okay? So scale copies have exactly the same shape, but they're in a different size.
Okay, now that we've gone through some basics about scale factor, remembering that the entire picture or shape is either stretched or you shrink it. So it's one of those two things. If you see on page 101, it talks about pairs of scaled polygons. And as you can see on your screen right now, I've got some examples, and I'm also including this as a file in Canvas for you. But you may use these to kind of challenge yourself and test yourself to answer questions 1, 2, and 3. Okay, now let's go back to where we were, and that the ones that you just saw you can use to answer questions 1, 2, and 3. So what is a scaled copy of a figure? For a final summary, let's just take a look at these. The second and third drawings are scaled copies of the original. Here's the original. So all they did was they took the whole thing and they pulled it from the corners, or else they pushed it in, but the figure stayed proportional and it either stretched or was shrunk. Whereas with the W, they actually changed that figure when they squished it. They squished it horizontally and they squished it vertically. So that is a good reference for you, and hopefully you will have a strong understanding of this. Finally, you will see a page that says Problem Set, Unit 1, Lesson 1, Cumulative Practice Problems, and that will be your problem set to complete and then enter in the problem set quiz. Have a great day.